Because Carradine's alive, a witness, and because I think he left something unfinished. They say dogs can sense evil, see what we can't, smell what's been scrubbed away, and hear what's whispered behind locked doors. But, even in a place of healing, no one expected a dog to become the harbinger of hidden truths. It was a sunny Tuesday morning, the kind of day that felt too harmless to hold anything dark. The corridors of Memorial Hope Hospital were quietly alive. Cartwheels squeaked down polished floors, machines beeped softly behind curtains, nurses chatted over morning coffee. In the rehab and geriatric wards, patients waited for their medications or a visitor's smile. And then came Radar. He wasn't just any dog. A retired canine German shepherd with a silver streak down his back, Radar walked with purpose but carried a calm presence. Staff adored him, tossed him treats when no one was looking. Elderly patients lit up when he entered the room, his tail wagging gently, his eyes kind. To most, he was just a therapy dog, a four-legged friend in retirement. But Officer Lena Brooks knew better. Radar had seen things, terrible things. He'd worked homicides, searched rubble after disasters, uncovered the lost and the dead in places most humans wouldn't dare to look. He didn't bark without cause. He didn't growl without certainty. And that morning, Radar growled. It happened in the hallway outside radiology. Dr. Charles Bennett was rounding the corner, clipboard in hand, white coat crisp, his salt and pepper, hair slicked back just right, mid-40s, polite, always smiled, always made eye contact. One of the most beloved physicians at the hospital. The moment Radar saw him, the dog froze. His ears perked, his hackles lifted. Then came the growl, deep, low, resonant. Lena's breath caught. It had been years since she'd heard that sound from him. Not here, not like this. Radar stepped forward, placing himself between Lena and the doctor, his body tense, protective, as if he'd stumbled into a crime scene no one else could see. Dr. Bennett blinked. "Whoa. Oh, hey there, buddy," he said, offering a practiced smile. "I guess someone doesn't like my cologne. Sorry." "Doc," Lena murmured, tugging the leash. "He doesn't usually do that." "Maybe it's the mask," Bennett said, adjusting his N95. "Dogs don't always like what they can't see." But Lena knew better. Radar wasn't reacting to fabric. He was reacting to something else, something underneath as they walked. On, nurses giggled. "Guess Radar's got strong opinions about bedside manner," one said. Lena forced a laugh, but her stomach twisted. In all his years of service, Radar had only growled like that twice. Both times, it led to an arrest. By noon, she was still thinking about it, replaying the moment again and again, rationalizing, doubting, but unable to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Radar never growled without reason, and if there was even the smallest chance he was right, she had to know. That evening, as hospital lights dimmed and staff trickled out, Lena opened her laptop and began to search. What she found would unravel everything, and Radar the dog, no one expected, would be the only one who saw it coming. Lena Brooks had learned to trust Radar long ago. His instincts had led them through collapsed homes in Kentucky, blizzards in Fargo, and Backley, crime scenes no rookie would dare approach. But this, a growl in a hospital hallway, she couldn't shake it. By the time lunch rolled around, Lena sat alone in the staff lounge. Radar stretched at her feet, tail still stiff, his eyes locked on the door. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. The hallway, Dr. Bennett's calm smile, that growl, Maybe Radar smelled another patient. Maybe it was nothing. But Radar didn't spook. He didn't guess. He knew. Lena cracked open her laptop and typed in Dr. Charles Bennett, Memorial Hope Hospital. Search results came quickly. Local news articles, hospital fundraisers, photos with smiling patients, a glowing quote about community healthcare values. All of it felt curated. His hospital profile was thin, too thin. Graduated out west. No older photos. No mention of early internships. No social media trail older than 6 years. Lena frowned. That's not how real lives look. She opened another tab. Verify medical license by name, US registry. Just as she hit enter, her phone buzzed. It was Helen, one of the senior nurses. Lena, you better come quick. Radar's growling again. Same hallway, same doctor. Lena was up in seconds. Downstairs, the scene was eerily familiar. Dr. Bennett stood halfway down the hallway, clipboard in hand, eyes steady. But Radar was planted in front of him now, tail stiff, teeth bared, not barking, not lunging, just warning. Whoa, Dr. Bennett said, holding still. I don't think I've done anything to offend your friend here. His voice was smooth, dry, but Lena saw his knuckles tighten around the clipboard. Maybe he smells something from outside, she offered, but this time there were witnesses. 2 nurses and a patient in a wheelchair. One nurse murmured, "That's weird." The other pulled out her phone. Radar didn't move, didn't flinch. His body coiled, gaze fixed. Lena tugged gently on the leash. Down, reluctantly, Radar stepped back. But his eyes never left Bennett. That night, back home, Lena stared at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. She rose, poured black coffee into a chipped mug, then dialed a number she hadn't called in over a year. "Frank Delaney," said the voice on the other end, deep, tired. "It's me," Lena said. "I need a favor." "Let me guess," Frank sighed. "You want me to run a background check because your dog didn't like someone. He's not just a dog. God, you're serious." "Who?" "Charles Bennett, Memorial Hope Hospital." "Something's not right." Frank paused. "Give me 24 hours. The next morning, Lena tried to act normal as she walked Radar through the halls. The dog did too until they passed Dr. Bennett's office. Radar stopped cold, ears forward, nose twitching. Then he whined, scratched the bottom edge of the office door. Lena leaned in. The scent of disinfectant, bleach, and something metallic. "Not here," she whispered. "Come on, boy." Back in the chapel, her phone rang. "Frank, you sitting down?" he asked. "I'm in a pew." "Good, because you're not crazy." "Charles Bennett died in a car fire outside Reno 6 years ago. Body burned, dental confirmed, no foul play, supposedly." Lena sat still, not breathing. "What?" "Here's the kicker. That same week, a surgeon named Lucas Darnell disappeared. Under federal investigation." Her hand trembled. "You're saying—" "I'm saying someone took Bennett's name and license. Darnell had the skills and every reason to vanish." Radar lay beside her, unmoving. She whispered, "What the hell did you uncover, boy?" The truth felt heavier than anything they'd ever tracked before. Darnell wasn't just a runaway. He was walking these halls, greeting patients, holding lives in his hands, and only one dog could see through the mask. By the time Lena returned to the hospital, her nerves were steel, but her pulse betrayed her. She scanned every hallway with new suspicion. every smiling staff member, every polished clipboard, and when she passed the staff bulletin board, something stopped her. A photo, Dr. Bennett at a fundraiser last year, smiling, one arm around a local politician, the other around a nurse, the same hand that Radar had growled at. That night, Lena went deeper. She pulled records, hospital staff newsletters, fundraising rosters, licensing documents. Nothing before 2018, like Charles Bennett, hadn't existed before then. She called Frank again. "Dig harder," she said. "I want everything on Lucas Darnell. Charges, connections, what he ran from." When he answered hours later, his voice was grim. Darnell was suspected of running an illegal transplant ring. A whistleblower nurse claimed he removed viable organs from patients declared dead under suspicious circumstances. He vanished a week before the FBI raided his surgical unit. Lena's mouth went dry, and he's been here for 6 years, with a spotless record. "Exactly," Frank said. "But that's not what worries me. What does? If he knows the walls are closing in, he won't run. Not right away." Lena looked down at Radar. The dog was already standing, like he knew something was coming, and he was ready for it. Lena had walked hundreds of hospital hallways in her time-bright corridors lined with charts and coffee cups, sounds of soft beeps and shuffling feet. But this one was different. Faintly colder, dustier, the kind of place where records go to die. She glanced behind her. No one. Radar padded silently at her side, nose twitching, tail low and alert. They had permission to visit patients. No one had asked where, and no one followed volunteers into the record basement. She reached the old metal door at the end of the hall. No badge reader, just a faded keyhole and a sticky handle. She turned it. It gave way with a creak. Inside, the air was stagnant. Shelves groaned under the weight of years, folders yellowing, papers curling at the edges, labels peeling with age. This was where time lived, untouched. "Let's find our ghost," she whispered. Radar moved ahead, methodical, nose to floor. He stopped at a side door marked Maintenance Archives, 2018 to 2021. He whined once, scratched. Lena's heart quickened. She turned the knob. Unlocked. The room behind it was smaller. Boxes stacked high, electrical logs, elevator reports, plumbing blueprints. And then, in the far corner, a single cardboard box slightly ajar. She approached, lifted the lid. Inside, papers, memos, logs, and a manila envelope. Unmarked, she opened it and froze. Photocopies of a federal wanted poster. A younger man, hair longer, clean-shaven. Lucas Darnell, surgeon, suspected of federal medical fraud, unauthorized surgeries, obstruction of justice. Below it, a police sketch. A clipping from the Chicago Tribune. Surgeon disappears ahead of organ trafficking. Trial, and notes, handwritten, nervous, angled pen strokes. "He's here. New name, new license. Someone knows." Lena's breath caught. Someone at this hospital had started putting the pieces together, but instead of sounding the alarm, they hid the evidence. Or maybe they were silenced. That night, at her kitchen table, Lena laid everything out. A legal pad, a pen, Radar at her feet, his chin resting on her sock. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's build a timeline." She scribbled furiously. 2017, Lucas Darnell disappears, 2018. Dr. Charles Bennett hired at Memorial Hope, 2018. First flagged patient death under Bennett's care. Unexplained cardiac failure. 2021 hospital upgrades. Security after data breach. Bennett begins avoiding cameras. She circled a single line. Maintenance records. Why hide them? Someone else had been watching him too. Maybe they'd gotten too close. Maybe Darnell made sure they never finished the job. Lena stared at the scribbled notes, the faces of victims unknown. Her hand trembled slightly. What kind of man wore another man's name for 6 years? The next day, she wore plain clothes, no badge. Just a visitor's tag and her full name. She walked with purpose, radar beside her, pretending to be checking in on patients. But really, she was circling Dr. Bennett's office. Again, when they passed the hallway, radar tensed. His ears lifted. He locked eyes on the frosted glass of the door. Dr. Charles Bennett, cardiology. He didn't growl this time, but his body leaned forward like gravity pulled him toward it. A nurse stepped out of the side hallway. "Ms. Brooks, can I help you?" Lena smiled. "Just doing rounds. I switched wings today, Carrie. Okayed it." The nurse looked uncertain, but nodded. Lena moved on. Heart pounding. Later that night, she found herself outside the hospital again. A folded folder in her hand. She had asked to speak privately with Deborah King, the chief nurse, someone she'd respected for years. They met at the staff garden, the air cool and quiet, the memorial fountain trickling softly. "I need to show you something," Lena said. Deborah took the file. Inside were 2 photos, one of Dr. Bennett from a recent fundraiser, the other a black and white copy of the FBI's wanted poster for Lucas Darnell. Deborah frowned. "Where did you get this?" "I have connections." Deborah stared at the faces, then slowly looked up. "This is serious." "I believe he's operating under a false identity," Lena said. "And someone in this hospital knew. Maybe still does." Deborah crossed her arms. "Do you have proof he's done anything illegal while here?" "Not yet, but he avoids security cameras. Radars reacted to him 3 times. And now these files." Deborah was quiet for a long moment. "Then, if you're right, this could bury the hospital." "I don't care about the hospital's image," Lena said. "I care about who he's going to hurt next." The next morning, everything changed. A young intern Carradine missed her morning rounds. Her phone went unanswered. Her car was still in the lot by noon. The hospital issued a staff-wide alert. Lena's stomach dropped. Radar was already tense, ears back, nose twitching. Then suddenly he pulled. Hard dot the leash slipped from Lena's hand. "Radar," she called. He was already down the stairs, heading straight for the lower levels. Storage rooms, forgotten labs, places no one used since the 2003 renovation. Lena followed, heart hammering. He stopped at a locked door, barked, frantic, sharp. A janitor passed by. "No one goes down there." Lena demanded the keys. He hesitated, handed them over. She opened the door. The smell hit her like a fist. Chloroform, disinfectant, metal. Fear. Carradine lay on the floor, barely conscious. And the 4th, still taped to her wrist. "Call security," Lena shouted. "Get an ambulance." Radar stood over the girl, protective, growling toward the shadows. Hours later, hospital security reviewed what little footage remained from the sub-level hallway. A tall man in a white coat had led Carradine into the stairwell the night before. He kept his face hidden. But Lena didn't need to see his face. The posture, the walk, it was him, Dr. Bennett. But when the police arrived, his office was empty, his computer wiped, drawers cleared. Lucas Darnell had vanished again that night. Lena sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, the echo of Carradine's whisper still in her ears. It was him. It was Dr. Bennett. He said he needed my blood type. Then everything went black. Radar sat in the passenger seat, head resting. On her arm, Lena stared out the windshield. He was gone again, but this time, they had his scent. The hospital tried to downplay the incident. A vague statement was released. A personnel concern. Full cooperation with law enforcement. The safety of patients remains our top priority. But Lena knew better, and so did Carradine. The young intern lay in the ICU, pale and shaken. Electrodes on her chest, a saline drip in her arm. She hadn't said much until now. Lena sat beside her, voice soft. "Do you remember anything?" Carradine looked away, then slowly nodded. "It was him," she whispered. "It was Dr. Bennett." Lena didn't speak, just let her continue. "He said he needed to confirm my blood type. AB negative. I didn't even know I was that rare." Lena's chest tightened. "Did he take any blood?" Carradine nodded faintly. "He did, right before I blacked out. I think he was going to harvest something." A long silence. Then Lena reached out and gently touched her hand. "You're safe now, and because of you, he won't get to do this again." Radar curled at the foot of the bed, let out a quiet bark. Carradine smiled weakly. "He found me, didn't he?" Lena nodded. "He always does." Later that afternoon, Lena met Frank Delaney again near the hospital loading dock. Out of view, from the media vans now circling the main drive like vultures, Frank handed her a thick, stamped, official, newly declassified, he said. "You're not going to like it." Inside, the original FBI case on Lucas Darnell. It was worse than Lena imagined. He had connections to a private medical group in Nevada for sure donors. Zero oversight. Patients who disappeared after routine. Surgeries, Lena paused at a photo, mid-20s, blonde, blue eyes. Label, Isabel Jameson. Presumed dead. Something clicked. "She was a patient here," Lena whispered. "We had a Jane Doe 2 years ago. Same eyes. Coma for weeks before she passed. Dr. Bennett handled the paperwork." "You still got her records?" Frank asked. "Nowhere to look." Back in the hospital's data archive, Lena sat at the clunky terminal while Radar lay alert at her feet. The system was a Frankenstein patchwork of half-digitized files, but she'd learned its quirks. And then there it was. Patient, ID, JD 1172. Female, unidentified, severe abdominal trauma. Attending physician, Dr. Charles Bennett. Procedure, exploratory. Laparotomy, outcome, death during recovery. Nothing unusual on the surface, but then Lena opened the scan files. No kidneys. Both gone. Her blood ran cold. She didn't arrive missing kidneys, she whispered. That happened here. Radar stood, hackles lifting. She rushed to Deborah King again. This time, the nurse didn't hesitate. "This needs to go to the state medical board," Deborah said. "And the FBI." "I've already called them," Lena said. "But we have to assume he'll strike again. He's running out of time. He's desperate." "Why?" "Because Carradine's alive, a witness, and because I think he left something unfinished." Deborah frowned. "Another patient, or someone who knows too much." The next morning, Lena brought Radar to the East Wing, mostly Physical therapy now, mostly forgotten. The air smelled like eucalyptus lotion and old disinfectant. As they passed room 214, Radar stopped. He scratched the door. WHINED. Lena pushed it open gently. Inside sat an elderly man in a wheelchair, his eyes closed, sun falling across his face. His chart read, Arthur Callahan, age 77. Diagnosis, stroke recovery. Radar walked forward, slowly, sat beside him, watched the man stirred, opened his eyes. Is that Radar? He rasped. Lena blinked. You know him. I followed his stories, Arthur said. He was in the news, search and rescue in Missouri, years ago. Lena stepped closer. My name's Lena Brooks. Radar is my partner. We're investigating something. Arthur's eyes sharpened. Let me guess, he said, voice dry. Charles Bennett. Lena's breath hitched. You know him. Arthur gave a faint smile. He's why I'm in this chair. He told his story slowly. It chilled Lena to the bone. Arthur had been a hospital systems auditor, brought in 2 years ago to investigate billing irregularities at Memorial Hope. He noticed Patton's strange surgical notations, procedural anomalies, all tied to patients. With no family, no oversight, all roads led back to Bennett, Arthur said. I started asking questions. The board said I was overstepping. A week later, Arthur suffered a sudden stroke on hospital grounds. I was perfectly healthy, he said. No warning signs. Then, gone. Blacked out before I could submit my report. You think he did something to you? I know it. Arthur whispered. I think he injected something, poisoned me, to stop me from blowing the whistle. Lena clenched her fists. Radar rested his head on Arthur's foot. You were supposed to be the next cover-up, Lena said quietly. Arthur nodded. But something went wrong. I didn't die, just lost everything. He looked at her with trembling eyes. I've waited so long for someone to believe me. You're not alone anymore. That night, Lena couldn't sleep again, but this time it wasn't fear, it was fury. She laid out the case like a map connecting dots, drawing lines. Carradine's blood type, Jane Doe's missing kidneys, Arthur's suppressed audit. Lucas Darnell wasn't just a fugitive. He was a predator, and he was still out there. But now, they had names, faces, stories, and they weren't just data anymore. They were witnesses. They were survivors. And Lena would not stop until they had justice. It started with a question. Why is there no death certificate for Jane Doe 1172? Lena sat across from Evelyn Monroe, the hospital director, a woman known for her tailored suits and tightly controlled demeanor. But today, something flickered in Evelyn's eyes, something fragile beneath the practiced calm. I run a hospital, Officer Brooks, she said slowly, not a conspiracy ring. Then explain this. Lena slid the folder across the table. Inside, photos, documents, reports, evidence of a hidden predator in a white coat, Darnell's past, Jane Doe's missing kidneys, the suppressed audit, Carradine's testimony. Evelyn didn't open it, but her hand trembled. You're going to want to talk, Lena said quietly, because this doesn't stop with one doctor. It's already bigger than you. For a long moment, Evelyn said nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she asked, How long have you known? Long enough. Evelyn exhaled, like the weight of years pressed against her lungs. I didn't know his real name. I swear to God. What did you know? I started getting calls 3 years ago, block numbers, Promises of anonymous donations, new labs, a new wing. But only if we looked the other way. And the board signed off on his credentials. They were spotless. Yale, Johns Hopkins. Nothing raised a red flag. Who signed the final hire? Evelyn hesitated. Dr. Robert Weissman, head of cardiology. Lena blinked. The same man who once offered to pay for Radar's orthopedic treatment, who spoke at ethics conferences, who shook hands with senators. Where is he now? Europe. Paris, I think. On sabbatical, of course. But Evelyn wasn't done. There's something else, she said. A room, one I never authorized. Lena leaned in. Darnell had it built through a maintenance back channel. It was supposed to be a record storage unit. No patients allowed. No nurses inside. Only he had the key. Where is it? Southwest corridor. Old research wing. Sublevel B. Lena didn't wait. She and Radar reached the corridor by nightfall. The wing was long abandoned walls, peeling, lights flickering. The kind of place most staff didn't even know existed. Radar led the way, body low, tense. Then he stopped, growled. Before them was a metal door with a biometric scanner, brand new hardware in a corridor full of rusted hinges and paint-chipped signage. This was it. Lena called Frank. We found it. She said, "Don't worry, I'm waiting." But inside, something twisted in her gut. They couldn't wait. Not anymore. 2 hours later, federal agents arrived with a warrant and a tech team. They breached the door. The smell hit first. Bleach, antiseptic, and something metallic beneath it all. Inside, a full surgical suite, cold lights, an operating table, cabinets stocked with sterilized tools, anesthesia, blood bags marked by blood type dot, and in the corner a refrigeration unit filled with tissue samples, some dated 5 years back. Lena stood frozen. Jesus, she whispered. Who did he do this to? Forensic techs began to work, but Radar ignored them. He went straight to a metal panel in the wall, sat, barked once. Lena knelt, opened the panel, a crawl space. Without hesitation, Radar slipped inside. Radar, she called. Dot from the dark one bark. Lena followed. Frank behind her. They emerged into a hidden room. No power, just 3 beds. Not hospital beds, restraint beds. The sheets were stained, not cold. Someone's been here, Lena murmured. Back. Upstairs, surveillance footage revealed more. 2 nights before Carradine went missing, a man entered through the side delivery door. No return record. The posture, the stride. Darnell. He had been experimenting here for years, and someone more than one person had helped him do it. Lena sat in the break room, coffee cold in her hand. Radar lay nearby, head up, eyes watchful. How many more, boy? She whispered. How many more did he hurt? Radar didn't answer, but his stillness said enough. The next morning, Lena returned to see Arthur Callahan. He listened to everything. So I was right all along, he said quietly. You were. Lena nodded. And now we have enough. He reached for her hand. Then go get him. That night, a letter appeared under Lena's windshield. No return address. 5 lines typed. You should have left it alone. Some things are above your badge. Arthur, was a mistake I won't repeat. You still have time to walk away. But if you don't, I'll see you soon. There was no signature, but she knew Lucas. Darnell was watching, and he wasn't running anymore. He was hunting. The next day, a whisper from Frank, a burner car. A triangulated cell signal. A gravel road to counties over. Deep in the Tennessee woods. Lena drove through the fog. Radar in the passenger seat. Ears alert. The cabin was unlisted, unmarked. A camera blinked from the roof. He knew they were coming. She stepped out, hand on her weapon. Radar at her side. Inside was silence. Damp, cold. A steel table. Surgical lights. And standing calmly behind them, Lucas Darnell. "I was wondering how long it would take you," he said without turning. "Step away from the table," Lena ordered. He did, hands raised. "No weapons," he said. "Just my hands. And a few regrets," Radar growled. "Don't get close," Lena warned. "He's faster than he looks." "You don't get to talk about loyalty," she snapped. He smiled faintly. "Depends how you define it. Where's Kay Stewart?" His face twitched. "I gave her a chance," he whispered. "But her body couldn't keep up. You killed her. I prolonged her life. Longer than anyone else would have. You played God. I was saving people," he hissed. "You just didn't like how I did it." Lena took another step. "You're done." But then he lunged. Her gun fired. The shot echoed like thunder. Darnell collapsed, clutching his leg, blood pooling. Radar stood over him, growling, teeth bared. "You couldn't let me die," Darnell gasped. "No," Lena said. "That's too easy." 2 hours later, he was airlifted under federal guard. The FBI agents thanked her. "You saved lives we didn't even know were in danger." But Lena's thoughts stayed in that cabin, with the blood, with the lies, with the truth that nearly got buried. Back at the hospital, Evelyn Monroe resigned. Weissman was arrested in Paris without resistance. Memorial Hope released a formal apology, but in room 214, Arthur Callahan sat in the morning light. Lena came to him herself. "It's over," she said softly. Arthur smiled. "You found the truth." She nodded, double quotes, "because of you." "No," he said, eyes dropping to the floor, "because of him too." Raider sat at his feet, the dog who never gave up. In the days that followed Lucas Darnell's arrest, the walls of Memorial Hope Hospital shook with consequences. The FBI launched a full-scale investigation into internal cover-ups. Patient families stepped forward, voices trembling, demanding answers to questions that had gone unanswered for years. Evelyn Monroe resigned from her post as hospital director, her legacy undone in the space of a single press conference. Dr. Robert Weissman was arrested at Charles de Gaulle Airport just minutes before boarding a flight to Dubai. He didn't resist. He didn't speak, but Lena wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about the unnamed, the forgotten, the patients who never made it home, the interns who vanished into silence, the Jane Does whose bodies became evidence, and the ones like Carradine who survived, who whispered the truth, and who would carry it forever. 2 weeks later, the town gathered in the community hall for a special ceremony. The mayor took the podium first. "Today, we honor not just a detective, but a partnership, one built on trust, on instinct, on courage." Lena stood quietly on stage. No uniform, just a simple blouse, her hair pulled back. Raider sat beside her, freshly groomed, his service medal glinting on his collar. The crowd stood and applauded as the police chief pinned a commendation on Lena's jacket and knelt to affix the medal on Radar's. Lena took the microphone, her voice steady. "We don't always know who's walking among us," she said. "Sometimes evil wears a badge, Sometimes it wears a white coat. She looked down at Radar. But dogs, like Radar, they don't care what someone looks like. They care about what's inside. A beat of silence. Then the room erupted into applause. That night, Lena sat on her porch swing, Radar curled at her feet. The sky above was dusted with stars. The air smelled like cut grass and summer coming too early. She took a sip of coffee and looked down at her partner. "Think we'll ever stop chasing monsters?" she asked softly. Radar gave a soft huff. She smiled. "Yeah, me neither." Then she looked straight into the camera. Because this story, it didn't belong just to her, or Radar, or the hospital. It belonged to all of us, to every person who's ever wondered if they could trust what their eyes saw, to every survivor who wasn't believed, to every pet who growled at the right stranger. So we ask you, have you ever seen a dog sense something you couldn't explain? Has your pet ever reacted to a person in a way that made you wonder? Tell us in the comments, because sometimes the truth wears fur and walks on four legs. If this story moved you, if Radar's bravery made you believe again in unseen heroes, subscribe to Heroes for Animals, share this video, and help us tell more stories where instinct, loyalty, and love become the difference between silence and justice. Because this chapter may be closed, but monsters, they don't sleep for long, and Radar is still watching.